That time I got reincarnated as a demon lord. English, by LordedoMal44. 07 Slime vs Fangs Wolves. PT2 Moonlight illuminates the Jura forest. As if responding to its glow, the hairs all over its body stood on end, its fangs and claws grew, and intimidation seeped from every part of its body, revealing its ferocity. His instinct told him that the moment to attack had arrived and that everything would work out in his plans. After all, what could this chill in his spine be if not the anticipation of a successful battle? The time when the Fang Wolves were called the rulers of the plains had come to an end. It was time to earn much more. Now that the mighty aura of the fearsome storm dragon, Veldora, had disappeared from the forest without leaving a trace, a proof that the divine protection that was once bestowed on forest dwellers was gone. There was no longer any need for the Fang Wolves to contain themselves. First, we will feed on these little goblins on our way. After that we will evolve, and then no creature in the Jura forest will be able to stop us. That had been the plan that the alpha of the Fang Wolves pack had formulated in the back of his mind after sensing that Veldora's presence had disappeared, beginning his attacks against the creatures deep within the forest. As far as his knowledge went, the band of goblins, the weakest creatures in this forest, had no power to defend themselves against them, and even an evolved member of their race could not fight a single one of the Fang Wolves and ended up dead. What would your rusty weapons do to your tough fur? How would their worn clothes defend them from their claws and fangs? The goblins were already dead, defeated by the might of the wolves. The alpha stood on the hill facing the goblin village and stared at her, but his eyes widened right away. That village looked nothing like the goblin village his subordinates had described to him. Rather than something the alpha expected to find within a forest, this one looked much more like a village of humans that the alpha had encountered long ago in the past. Great walls, around 4 meters high, stretched out, encircling the perimeter of the entire village and then some. At the base of the walls were a series of thorns, as if trying to prevent any creatures from even trying to jump over them, and there were a few small groups of goblins on top of the walls. There was a single entrance at the front of the village, surrounded by wooden spearheads, apparently removed from the surrounding forest, and standing right in front of the entrance was a single small, motionless creature. A small amount of intimidation leaked out of the alpha wolf, directed at the scouts he'd sent to check out this village earlier. This village had been chosen because it was weaker than the other goblin villages in the region, a starting point they had chosen to be the best on the journey, but now, it felt like something else entirely. Even if the enemies were only the goblins, with a level of development so similar to the development that humans would have, the alpha felt that the battle would not be easy at all. The worst was the fact that the village only had one entrance. The alpha didn't care much about that creature at the entrance as it was small and didn't give off any signs of aura that could be threatening. Still, with the entire pack being forced through a single entryway, the alpha wasn't confident they would have a low number of casualties among his. If they could disperse, the wolves would be able to dodge more arrows and their fur would protect them from the rest, but having to focus on a single, small entrance, the wolves would have a lot more casualties on their side than they had originally planned. Of course, it's not like the alpha really cares about that fact. The only creature that mattered was him. After all, the pack was a single creature, and he was the pack. And to think that these little goblins want to challenge the pack. Your end won't be slow at all, let alone painless. Oh, you. With a howl, the alpha transmitted the hatred that was in his heart to all the other wolves in the pack, using thought transmission to pass on his orders. This howl served as a warning to the wolves how much the alpha wanted these goblins to suffer before they died, and of course it also heralded the start of battle. My plans had flown the way I had imagined, at least to some extent. I erected a large stone wall surrounding the entire village using a low concentration of magisteel to reinforce it so that the goblins who could fight would be safe on top of the walls and those who couldn't would be safe inside, since the only input would be going through me. The wolves couldn't go over the walls because of the thorns, and they couldn't go underneath because the goblins would be attacking, meaning they would have to literally walk over my corpse to get to the goblins. Using the wood from the forest present in the area surrounding the village and the steel wire from the skill, spider steel silk, and again infusing the magisteel to make the wires stronger, I created a set of bows and crossbows for the goblins. According to the great sage, the magisteel would make bows more resistant and powerful weapons, although I didn't pay the slightest attention to all the explanation he gave. To tell you the truth, I just left that part to Great Sage since I didn't even know how to make a crossbow. Wherever he got the idea to make the crossbows from, it was genius. Less than the information used in the creation of the crossbows has been removed from the sacred texts. Greater than. Well, yes, the idea came from manga, but what does it matter? It's a worthy weapon, okay? That's all that matters. While I was having this train of thought, I detected a howl coming from a hill close to the village. Using clairvoyance to aid my magical perception, I could see, even from a distance, how little more than 100 wolves were approaching the village. Of course, I wasn't scared by that. Whether it was my desire for battle or the fact that clairvoyance detected a minimal amount of magicules within them, a part of me, Great Sage, was sure of my victory. I signaled the goblins and they all started to assume the positions I had given each of them. Virtually all the goblins that could fight were on the walls, most using bows and crossbows to support me if there was a need for a large-scale battle. Some of the few goblins that caught the Great Sage's attention as possibly talented were left behind me at the bottom with the swords and clubs that I also upgraded, just in case the wolves used the numbers to, by some miracle, get past me. Ha 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 ha. As if it were possible for these wolves to pass me. But don't worry, after I defeat them there will be enough of you for us to earn some mounts. After all, what great group of goblins doesn't have wolf mounts? Well, let's start. As soon as I finished muttering those words the wolves appeared in the distance, one where I could already see them without the need for my clairvoyance. The goblins trembled in fear at his threatening growls, aiming their bows and crossbows but refraining from firing. I, on the other hand. Hey you guys. Who's your leader? I increased the volume of my voice by using ultrasonic waves to reach the wolves, even though I thought they had keen hearing. I didn't want to reveal my strength to them, but if I find the leader and eliminate him quickly, it increases the chances of them surrendering and will reduce casualties, giving us more companions and mounts. Huh, that's a responsible demon king, isn't it? Less than. Greater than again, I'm not going to get into this discussion with you, Sage. How does a little slime like you have the gall to refer to me, Alpha of the Fang Wolves? Know your place, humble little creature. And bingo, we have our champion. Why is it that proud people always cause their own downfall? Well, I guess the answer to that question is pride? No. What reveals our own greatness to us is also what blinds us to others. If he had stopped to think that a slime, which is theoretically unintelligent, is talking to him, he might have realized that I'm not a normal slime. Well, never mind. Making him more arrogant will only make it even easier to take him down, and a little more fun too. Shut up, you fleabag. If you're all proud of yourself, then why don't you come face me yourself? The Alpha almost lost himself in anger for a second, nothing impressive. Even in the old world bullies were easy to annoy and manipulate, and while they got me into trouble, they were easy to make go away. Of course, I like to solve my problems peacefully, and I would never have tried to fight back in my previous world, but here. Humph. Would a cockroach like you challenge me? If you want to die so badly, then why don't you move away from these walls and come? I'll be happy to crush you. Just as I'd expected, the Alpha's eyes darted to the walls as he spoke. The Alpha doesn't feel my aura due to me suppressing it, so he still thinks of the goblins armed with ranged weapons on top of the wall as the biggest threat he'd have to deal with. Because of that, facing me close to the walls would be foolish. Well, despite that, I'm the most dangerous thing here. As if I could trust you, not even I would have a fighting chance if all the wolves came at me together. That wouldn't be fair. Don't worry, Bug. I don't need any help ripping you apart, the Alpha yelled it at me, his fangs more on display than before. All of you, don't you dare meddle in my fight against that piece of junk. I'm going to personally kill him before we kill the damn goblins. I moved forward fearlessly after the Alpha said those words. All the wolves looked scared, more scared of the Alpha than the goblins or me, and so I was pretty sure none of them would advance the goblins or get involved in my fight until it was over. It seems that, in the end, pride is really the downfall of the strong. Now the Alpha will make a point of destroying me personally because of his arrogance, but in the end, he will be the one to be destroyed. I have a question. After your death, will your pack die along with you or can I have them as my subordinates? Ha 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 ha. You don't have the power to kill me, insignificant little creature. I don't know how much he understood at this point, but I tried to smile, although that's impossible since I'm a slime. And it seems the Alpha noticed my mockery, This only served to make him even angrier than before. You small, insignificant creature. Wolves of Fang exist to follow only the strong. A creature like you will never be worthy of leading me. The alpha finally lost what little self-control he still had and lunged toward me, his face lost in fury like a wild animal. It made me kind of bad. I pissed him off to the point where he lost control, but he had already told me everything I needed to know. I just needed to show everyone that I was stronger than any of them, and then the Fang wolves would serve me. Well, it's too bad you don't want to serve me. After all, I'm the strongest. The moment the alpha's fangs were close to reaching me, something that scared all the goblins, I activated my water propulsion skill. Instead of releasing the water like a turbine, as I have done so far, I released the water at an angle, causing my body to spin with the momentum of the water, and always directing my own body towards the ground. This made my body feel like a tire spinning at high speed. Less than notice. Skill, water rotation, has been integrated into skill, water manipulation, greater than. Just as expected, it seems to work. The alpha's fangs didn't reach me, and instead the only thing he bit was the mud I left where I walked, which pissed him off more. The alpha tried to reach me once or twice, but I always rolled away from him and he couldn't reach me no matter what he did. Eventually we ended up with me going around in a circle around him, with him in the center of the circle not going in any direction because he couldn't follow me with his eyes. Stand still, you worm, or do you intend to run away forever? I don't need to worry about hearing the words of a weak wretch like you. I just wanted to prolong this miserable little life of yours. Now, die. With my scream, I started shooting several water blades and stone bullets. They seemed to be coming from all directions at once towards the Wolffang Alpha. The former Wolffang Alpha, and just as he had been unable to follow the speed of my movements with his eyes, he had been totally unable to even see death approaching him. In short, it was a massacre. The Alpha's body had been flanked by so many bullets and shot at by so many blades that when my barrage of attacks ended he was nothing more than a pile of pixelated flesh. I sincerely hope I never have to use this attack on a human. I'm no longer human, I'm aware of that, and I don't have any particular attachment to humans, but I feel like it wouldn't be good for my mental health to see human beings reduced to that state. Well, I'm getting stronger just to avoid this kind of thing. I muttered this to myself before jumping towards the pixelated pile and devouring it all in an instant. Predator started to act and the analysis was over in seconds, announcing the new skills I acquired, which were thought transmission and intimidation, as well as the fact that I had a new way to mimic, which was that of the Fang Wolf. As I nonchalantly devoured the Alpha, both the wolves and the goblins, who still looked on in horror, backed off a little. That's why, right after I devoured the Alpha of the wolves, I activated Predator's mimicry. Black mist covered my entire body for a second before releasing a similar but different shape to the Alpha Wolf. At that moment, with intimidation activated as much as I was able to emit, I screamed at the wolves, who listened in alarm. So, Fang Wolves, who's your new Alpha?